is warning Iran against inciting turmoil in the Middle East with funds that will follow from the nuclear agreement Tehran struck with the six world powers. Also at srnnews.com, House Republicans have withdrawn a bill to create a special commemorative coin for cancer research over concerns on where some of that money might end up.
House leaders pulled the legislation after Heritage Action complained some of the money raised from sales of the coins could go to the Susan G. Komen Foundation, which has links to Planned Parenthood. A number of Republicans withdrew their support. The bill could come up again later this week. A GOP aide says leaders want to ensure that 100% of any money raised goes towards diagnosing, treating, and curing breast cancer.
SRN's Wally Hines reporting. Closing arguments in the James Holmes mass murder trial in Centennial, Colorado today. District Attorney George Brockler says Holmes entered the theater with one goal in mind: to commit mass murder.
He did it for one purpose: to make himself feel better and to increase his theoretical sense of value, not to anyone else, to himself.
On Wall Street, the Dow by 76 points. This is SRN News.
No hate, no hype, no fear. We are TFR. Frequency Radio.
The Rundown, Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Check out therundownlive.com. Mike P. Kristan H. The Rundown, Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Check out therundownlive.com.
What up, guys? We are live here. It is Tuesday, July 14th, live here on the Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. We have a guest tonight. Jeff Warrick's going to be on the show.
Jeff Warrick, huh?
Yeah, he is a filmmaker, created a documentary called Programming the Nation, and, it gets into the subliminal aspect of things. I think it's going to be really interesting.
You know, we need those subliminal messages. We need somebody to tell us what to buy or what to eat or what to drink or what to do, for that matter, Mike.
Yes. Always when I think of subliminals, the only thing I could think of is They Live. I literally think of Roddy Piper with the glasses, going down the street when he first puts the glasses on and he starts looking at all the magazines and he looks up at the billboards and he sees that basically everything that he looks at has a hidden message behind it.
Well, the first thing I think of is the commercials that would flash like a message real quick and you wouldn't be able to see it, but your brain picks it up.
Yes.
So they used to add those into the movie reels. They'd cut them and then they'd add a quick subliminal message: buy popcorn or get a soda or something like that.
Yes, I remember a clear one with the national anthem they used to play at the end of the night where they would put hidden messages down in the text and it would only appear on the screen for a brief second. But I think it's going to be interesting when Jeff gets on. We're going to ask him kind of how he got involved in all this kind of stuff and, what's really going on, why some of the persuasion that's going on, and not only persuasion, but perversion. I mean, because a lot of this is sexual relation.
Well, I wouldn't doubt it. You're hearing university professors come out and say that, it's normal for men to be attracted to children and, pedophilia is just a sex choice or attraction choice, or it's normal.
I don't think it's just that it's pedophilia. I think it's just the idea that there is these hidden sexual messages and we're just sexual creatures. So many people are driven by sex that, of course, it's going to be an advertisement.
Well, it's going to be in everything is what I'm saying, but that's the one that keeps popping up. It all starts with things like... I guess if you really want to be controlled, you're going to see, you're not going to notice any of these messages, Mike. And these messages just pop up and they kind of subliminally dictate what you do. A lot of times what you eat, the way you drink. It's pretty much like population control, Mike. They can really control a nation massively by instilling propaganda. We always talk about preconditioning, like playing PS3 and Xbox, and then you know what kind of controller they use to fly a drone? Probably something similar to an Xbox controller or a PS3 controller.
Yeah, and
You know?
imagine the possibilities with that. And speaking of weirdness, did you see the story we posted today about Planned Parenthood that's going super viral? Everybody's talking about it. You know, you're going to sell the babies, the baby livers. I mean, it's completely crazy, but that's the reality, I guess.
Yeah, somebody higher up in Planned Parenthood was discussing how to sell baby parts while eating dinner, and she even had like a checklist, I believe. And you know, it sounds like to me that this isn't the first time she's done this. So I wouldn't doubt that there's a whole market where people are buying baby parts. Who knows? There's a lot
didn't
of weird
we hear
beliefs out
from
there.
a very well-known conspiracy radio host that a company like Pepsi was putting fetal tissue in it for flavor, and now here we are, fast forward 2 years later, and basically they're pimping out baby livers. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, they need the abortion for, you know, Pepsi flavoring or, you know, pills. We saw, was it North or South Korea? It's one of the Koreas was smuggling
The
in.
dust.
Yeah, baby pills, baby dust. And, you know, basically people were buying these pills and they thought it made them look younger or whatever it might be. And they were taking them. It's literally cannibalism, almost like it's Babylonian cannibalism, much like the ancient Babylonian mystery religions taught. You know, cannibalism, there's a lot of rumor that extends your life, or legends anyways, not a rumor, but legends, that you can rejuvenate your life, look younger. And wasn't there a prominent queen that was pumping baby blood through her veins?
Well, yeah, I think there's celebrities that still do that take blood baths. Now, not everybody's taking it in human blood, but I wouldn't be surprised these days.
How bizarre, though.
They just
think
use
that-
goat blood. Don't mind them.
It's Bohemian Grove all over
Oh
again,
yeah,
guys.
and speaking of that, we're talking Bohemian Grove tomorrow. Just to throw that out there, but we're gonna hear about some propaganda and stuff today. It'll be interesting to hear what Jeff has to say here in a few minutes. But before we bring Jeff on, we should probably talk about the site.
Yeah, guys, if you have not had a chance to yet, check out therundownlive.com. Every day we put out new articles by Mike and I and other activists from around the globe that we know, that we trust, and that we read daily. We've probably had a lot of them on this show. Also, guys, follow, share them on your Facebook, you know, your Twitter. All these awesome social media networks help us get out there. They really help spread the message, and that's really how everyone communicates nowadays. They either have, you know, these LinkedIn sites, or they use StumbleUpon, or even their email. So do share them. Watch the videos, share the videos, check out all the awesome content on the website. We really do put a ton of stuff on there. We have a nifty search bar up there where you can search terms like Bohemian Grove or Bilderberg or things that you're trying to become educated in. Also, like weather modification, which has been a big topic as of late, and many other topics that we cover on the show. So if you hear something you're like, boy, I never heard of that, you can just go to therundownlive.com and to punch it right into our search bar. It's pretty neat. We have a news section. We have a bunch of different things on there. Find the website, find Mike and I, and visit the site today. One of the ways you can support us is actually through the website. Check out Private Internet Access. Private Internet Access is a software we offer that allows you to surf the internet anonymously. We use this daily to search the internet. It allows you to do cool things like avoid Reddit bans, video game bans, and even get sporting events in different areas. So if you're in a blacked out area, you can change your IP as if you're in a different location, and it would allow you to watch these blacked out games. So it's pretty neat like that. It's $39.95, covers up to 5 devices, cell phone, tablet, or PC. And part of that purchase helps Mike and I stay afloat here. We're at 100% listener funded, and we really appreciate those that are coming through. Also, I wanted to mention we're in need of a new hard drive. We're almost there. We raised some money yesterday. If you guys are interested in donating to help us upgrade our hard drive, one of ours is dying. We want to make sure we can back everything up. Get a hold of us. There's also a PayPal donation link on the website, or show tips at therundownlive.com. If you'd like to listen to us live, there's no better way than on the TuneIn Radio app. The app is free. It's available on your cell phone or tablet. You'll get Mike and I and all the other awesome broadcasters that are distributed through TFR Radio Denver 90.7 FM. That's Popeye, Joe Joseph, Phoenix Rising, Brooks Agno, and of course the Rundown Live. We're on there nightly, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. So check out the TuneIn Radio app. Search for the Rundown Live. We also have our very own Android app or iPhone app. If you'd like to search for that, just go to your Google Play Store or iPhone app or Play Store and type the Rundown Live, and you'll be able to download this very cool app that'll allow you to get all our past episodes. You'll be able to email Mike and I, access all our different social media networks, and listen to us at your convenience on the way to work or on your way back from work. Or like I used to listen to radio as a kid while I fall asleep. I don't know why. Sometimes I absorb the most, Mike, right before I fall asleep. So I used to like doing reading right before I fall asleep too. And I want to say thank you to everyone that syndicates this, TFR Radio, FPRN Radio, all the different outlets out there. Also, find us on YouTube. YouTube is very cool. All our episodes are on there, just about all of them. And if you can't find them there, we have them on the app, as well as limited edition stuff and other interviews that Mike and I are involved in. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Tell your friends. Tune into the rundownlive.com. You can get us live in the chat, rundownlive.com/live, and you can get video sometimes of Mike and I and the things we're talking about and communicate with us and our guests sometimes directly. Send us your questions now, therundownlive.com/live.
Yeah, speaking of radio, did you see Art Bell's making his return to radio?
Yeah, I didn't know. Well, I knew he left a while ago. Didn't he sell Coast to Coast? Didn't he originally own it?
Yeah, he was the original George Norrie for the people that are the new listeners, right?
Yeah, when I talk to a lot of old schoolers, when I mention Coast to Coast, they're like, "What? You mean like Art Bell?"
Right.
And I'm like, well, like kind of like George Norrie, but Art Bell. Obviously, I've heard a couple of his episodes, and he does do, I believe, guest appearances here and there on Coast to Coast every few years. So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say and, how far advanced we've become. A lot of things that they talked about on Coast to Coast have really happened. Drones or the Patriot
Some
Act
of the things,
leading
yeah, it's
to
definitely
cameras on the street corner and, the police state. And not everything they were right on, but as you know, it is entertainment. And they have sometimes people that really brain rape you. That's the only way I can explain it. They'll be like, yeah, there's portals on Mars and we visit it daily. And you're like, this guy's nuts. He's like, I'm former CIA.
Well, yeah, of course. They always have those great connections. But, before we bring Jeff Warrick on from Programming the Nation, we were briefly talking in the beginning about some subliminal type messages. And like I said earlier, the only thing that I can think of when somebody says subliminal messaging to me is the damn scene from They Live with Piper. That's like it. That is the essence of subliminal messaging to me. And
you gotta put the glasses on.
Right, and there's so many real life examples, but that really just wrapped it up for me. Seeing that movie and seeing how he observed all the billboards and stuff, it's just like, wow, that is so true. And I think Jeff gets even more specific because we're talking about things literally being hidden in advertisement. And this isn't just advertisement.
It's on our money.
It's money, political campaigning. It's everywhere. It's not just, in simple television ads. I mean, this is literally every aspect of our life. And I believe we do have Jeff Warrick on of Programming the Nation. Do we have you, Jeff?
How you doing, Jeff?
Hey, I'm doing well, thanks. How are you guys?
Good. It's good to have you on, man. We actually just recently kind of discovered you. I think I heard of the documentary a few years ago, but I noticed a video going really viral online where you basically sat down and said, you know what, subliminal messaging is real.
Yeah, they contacted me out of the blue and asked me to go, fly to LA and do a quick video for them. And yeah, I said, sure. It sounded like fun, and it turned out pretty well, actually.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing the few examples that you gave in that short clip, it was just like, wow, this is something that we haven't really got in depth into in a while. And I thought, what a great way to kind of show people how real this propaganda really is. I mean, this stuff isn't just a conspiracy. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, and I kind of am interested, you worked in the advertising, you're a filmmaker, what led you to even discovering these subliminals?
Well, I mean, the topic of subliminal messaging was really first introduced to me when I was just a kid in the late 70s. My father, who was reading a book called Subliminal Seduction by Wilson Bryan Key, which claimed that they were blipping hidden messages during movies in theaters to increase popcorn and Coke sales. I remember that kind of alarmed me when I was a child. I mean, I thought, wow, if they're capable of doing that to, and tapping into our brains in such a manner, what other messages could they be sending us, So, I mean, later as a kid in the 80s, the youth pastor at the church I attended, often lectured to us about subliminal backed masked messages in rock and roll, which were guilty of influencing listeners to, take drugs, worship Satan, and commit suicide. Which really even scared me further. I mean, if this is something that I actually believed for many, many years. But really, I think it was probably after 9/11, which was probably the biggest catalyst for me in making this film. Particularly the claims that it was all an inside job, and the Bush administration and what I prefer to call the extreme media, how they were beating the drum for war against Iraq. I mean, all this stuff led me to wonder and begin exploring in what ways are we being manipulated on a subconscious level. And that's kind of what led to the documentary.
Well, absolutely. When you say 80s, I think cartoons. I remember I had every toy of every cartoon I watched. And that in of itself is a form of, subliminal messaging or marketing, for that matter, anyways.
Oh, I mean, there's so many examples of it in advertising, particularly. I mean, I spent many years in advertising myself. I was a print advertising sales executive. So, I experienced a lot of this firsthand. I wasn't keen on hiding secret messages in my advertisers' print ads, but it definitely got me thinking about ways that it could be used, and exploring different examples of it being used. I show a lot of examples, or actually they showed a lot in the video that we just recently shot, and a lot of people are like, "Wow, you must see penises everywhere," and it's like, well, these aren't all my examples. These are examples that have been around for quite a while that other people have shown me. I don't really go around looking for phallic symbols in print ads like a lot of people think I might, but I think it's all very fascinating, and a lot of it's really debatable too.
Well, and the question is why? Why would something like that even be marketable? Hiding a phallus in a rock or something, or hidden in a drinking glass. I don't get how that could even increase sales.
That's a good one, and it took me a while to kind of understand the logic behind that too. Basically, the point is that to be effective, a subliminal messages, it really has to either stimulate an unconscious anxiety or satisfy an unconscious fantasy. So, the human mind is extremely sensitized to two big things that deal with either the beginning of life, which is sex, of course, or the end of life, death. And so if you can plant something in there that's strongly motivating, either sex or death, the unconscious will remember that for a very long time. Studies have shown this. So now with the alcohol and tobacco industries are extremely notorious for using these techniques in their print advertising. That's where I find the most examples of this. And you'll find hundreds of them with hidden SEXs, phalluses, skulls, death symbols, all kinds of stuff in their ads. You can find them just by searching the internet. We show a lot of these examples in our film too. So basically, according to one of the experts we interviewed, the predominant trend also now seems to be like sexual assault, but hidden phalluses and death symbols can stimulate unconscious anxiety and satisfy unconscious fantasies. And so here's a good example. Anxiety is associated with both the consumption of cigarettes and alcohol. I mean, we all know people smoke and drink more when they're nervous. So it's totally logical to think that making them nervous induces them to consume more alcohol or tobacco. So that's kind of one example. I mean, it's pretty insidious if you think about it, that they would be planting, hidden phalluses and death symbols in ads to get us to consume more of those products. But that seems to be how it is best used.
I mean, who would have ever thought that there was a hidden guy on a pack of camels? That's
right?
Just crazy. But obviously, it's there. You can see it. I don't know if they're still printing the same advertisements today or the same packaging, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah,
the phallus is even a big symbol nowadays. We have obelisks everywhere that do imitate the phallus as well that seem to appear at his monuments.
Oh yeah, and if you look at the kind of a more recent Camel ad with Joe Camel, I mean his whole face and long nose were very phallic-like if you think about it. So and plus not only that, but if you think about it on a subconscious level and the cartoon aspect of that ad, how is that really marketing to children? I think it really probably did a great job in increasing smoking with children.
Absolutely, and then it makes me think of the big scare back in the 90s with everyone discovering all the hidden messages in the Disney movies. Whether it was... And those were all
Lion King.
Sexually perverse as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we look at some of those in our film. It was surprising to me, but we showed a 60-minute news segment which discussed hidden sexual imagery in The Little Mermaid. But Disney has a long list of other animated films that allegedly contain sexual subliminals, including Toy Story, Tangled, The Lion King, Aladdin, The Rescuers, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Donald Duck. I mean, there's all kinds of examples. The biggest and most important examples we look at a lot of examples in film, including Alfred Hitchcock, Psycho. We take a look at, Apocalypse Now, some examples that were being used in The Godfather, Francis Ford Coppola films. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting how it's used in film and television.
Well, why would Disney include it? Who are they targeting when they're making these kind of sexual innuendos? I mean, that's the real question I have. Are they really trying to target children with this stuff, or is it the adults that are watching the movies with their kids?
Yeah, I wish I knew. I mean, we reached out to a lot of people, including people in the advertising industry. Disney was definitely not very forthcoming in explaining it to me, but the predominant theme seems to be disgruntled artists that might have just inserted it as a joke. I'm not sure. It's a good question.
It seems like it would be easy for some guy just to kind of insert that in and say, oh, haha, it's just a joke. But when you see this stuff all over, and like you talk about in the film, all the money that's spent on the advertising, it just doesn't seem like an accident to me. Like, a lot of this is obviously done on purpose. And not to mention, when this stuff was first discovered with Freud back in the day, before Bernays and stuff, they kind of knew that this was a really manipulative technology, and they knew that this could be a major issue going into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Bernays, Freud's nephew, he wrote a book called Propaganda, which was great. It was interesting about how easily people can be manipulated, particularly with media and in advertising. So this, our film kind of is more of a modern day version of that, I like to think. But, just in general, I think advertising has good advertising really does need to be and hit you on a subconscious level. And a great example of this to me is like Nike's campaigns. I mean, they're so brilliant. Just do it and Air Mike or Air Jordan. I mean, these things, people really believe that, or subconsciously thought that buying these shoes is going to help them become a better basketball player. And if you think about it, they cost way more than other shoes. You could just buy any shoe and play basketball. But what a great marketing campaign to sell more shoes. And it's really about getting people, hitting them on a base level where they feel like something really resonates with them. Like this is cool. This is hip. This is going to make me feel better. This is going to make me more popular. Those are all the kind of subliminal or subconscious ways in which good advertising works.
It reminds me of the Reebok pumps. You remember them? You'd pump the tongue there, and it'd make you a better...
Yeah, everybody at school would be pumping them up.
And then there was the LA Gear knockoffs that would, break all the time.
Absolutely. And, it's interesting because, I mean, advertisers spend over $70 billion a year. That was in 2015. That's just a little statistic. Some other startling statistics, if your listeners are interested, average Americans watch over 4 hours of TV per day, or 28 hours per week, or 2 months of nonstop TV watching per year. And in a 65-year life, that person will have spent 9 years glued to the tube. And so that same person will also see 30,000 commercials per year on television. And children, that's a great one, because we talk a little in our film about advertising to children and how that might be subliminal. Children spend 1,680 minutes per week watching TV, yet the number of minutes per week that parents spend in meaningful conversation with children is 3.5 minutes. I mean, this is staggering. The number of hours children spend per year in school is 900 compared to 1,500 hours watching television.
Well, at least we have our priorities set. I just want to get that out there right now.
I mean, they say that children are raised by the TV, and you see it even more these days, and now everyone has tablets and the internet, and I'm interested, how this subliminal advertisement can evolve, because people say television is dying, but obviously people are still setting their children down in front of the TV. It's easy for parents to kind of set them down, and then they don't have to worry about them. But maybe you should be worrying, because you don't really know what they're watching, do you?
No, and the other thing is that when you're talking about children, especially with younger children, I mean, everything kind of blends seamlessly together, so children can't really discern the difference between the program and the ad. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, that operates on a subliminal or subconscious level as well. And I mean, there's just a lot of ways in which kids are being targeted. I think that video games is another one. We originally had plans to insert a section in the film about video games. Unfortunately, the film covered way too much already, and it was way too long, so we had to cut some things. That was one of the sections that got cut. But you talk about television dying. I think we're actually in a golden age of television, the second golden age. I mean, television is really just evolved. It's not really dying, I don't think.
Well, no, it's going to go to 3D TV and then holographic TV.
Yeah.
We won't even have TVs pretty soon. We're going to just put on a headband with goggles on it, almost like Demolition Man, and that'll be our entertainment. They're talking about glasses now. You'll put on a pair of like sunglasses, and it'll project the TV for you as large as you want in the room. It's incredible.
Perfect, just what we need, right?
It's really kind of scary when you really think about how you're being attacked on all sides all the time. And when you see all these billboards and the commercials and all the advertisement everywhere, you have to wonder, what's really behind this? I mean, are we just human chattel at this point? We're literally just slaves for our dollars, and we're just lifelong consumers. And I think that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I really have gotten to the point where I kind of feel that, in my opinion at least, I mean, the goal is really just to keep us dumbed down, lazy, lethargic, uninvolved, uneducated, uninformed, and kind of out of the way for these people to achieve their political and economic agendas. I mean, that's basically what it boils down to.
Guys, we're going to break here. 3 short minutes, Truth Frequency Radio, Rundown Live. We're here with our guest, Jeff Warrick. We'll be right back.
For over 3,000 years, we've been in the background.
Awesome, Jeff. We got 3 minutes, just so you know.
Yeah, great talk, man.
Oh, thanks. Good.
Hey, do you know anything about any kind of symbolism on the dollar that's hidden or anything like that? Subliminal messages with the dollar?
Not really. Just the Illuminati, all-seeing eye in the pyramid.
Moloch, the owl in the right corner.
Travel the world and
I think there's a spider.
The spider, I mean, a little bit, but I don't really know too much about the history of it.
No worries, man. I was just
great
curious.
about speaking on it. Yeah.
Genetically modified.
One section that what we might want to cover is the fact that there's no laws. People are kind of under a misconception about laws that exist or some kind of prohibitions for advertising, subliminal advertising. So
there's no real protections because they form their gigantic group. So now there's no laws.
They're like
right?
a gang, yeah.
Yeah.
Americans cut back their spending at stores and restaurants last month.
The Commerce Department says there was a 0.3% drop in retail sales in June. It's the weakest showing since February's harsh winter weather kept shoppers indoors. Economists had expected that consumers would rein in their spending following...
Are you guys still there?
Yeah, we're still here.
Oh, hey, another thing that we could talk about perhaps is advertising to women.
That's our friend Jeremy Haas reporting. A federal appeals court in Denver has ruled The federal health care law does not infringe on the religious freedom of faith-based nonprofit organizations that object to covering birth control.
Yeah, I think we should start putting Kristan T. Harris's sexy subliminal messages in all female advertising.
The exemption doesn't go far enough. They must sign away the coverage to another party.
You want Kristan T. Harris. His phone number is.
This is SRN.
I always want to dial this phone number, and I don't know why.
The secureness of Mexico's entire prison system is now open to serious doubt following the tunneled escape of the leader of the Sinaloa drug cartel.
When Joaquin Shorty Guzman was recaptured last February after 13 years on the run, the United States...
I could also talk about some research studies or...
but were assured by Mexican authorities that the risk of a second escape didn't exist. He'd have to serve jail.
Yeah, I definitely want to. I'm interested in the political aspect of this too. As far as going into like a campaign season, are we going to see this kind of stuff in political ads and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Proved to be unreliable, unsafe, and uncontainable.
We'll kind of just let you run with it, Jeff, here in this second half.
Okay,
we'll jump in if we have questions
this morning. Killing 2 teenagers and injuring the instructor and 2 other teens.
All right, here we go,
More
guys.
Details at srnnews.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington.
Angry Beaver Radio with John Bernard. Saturday on Truth Frequency Radio.
Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Check out therundownlive.com. Mike P. Kristan H. The Rundown, Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Check out therundownlive.com.
The rundown.
We're hanging out here with our guest, Jeff Warrick of Programming the Nation, and getting into some subliminal advertisement. And, you know, just like the bumper music you just heard, I thought it'd be a good idea to have, like, a catchy beat, you know, going over our names and stuff, get people remembering the rundown. And I'm sure
Mike
if a guy like us can do it, you know, imagine what a think tank with millions of dollars could do.
Yeah, Mike and I are now going to add subliminal messages to everything. We decided this on the break. Just kidding.
It's definitely interesting looking at this stuff and how real it really is. I think a lot of people want to think, oh, you know, this is just a conspiracy. You know, they think about the stories Jeff mentioned where they said drink Coca-Cola and eat popcorn, and, you know, the conspiracy that, oh, you know, that was really it. It's just going to be in the movie theater, and, you know, whether or not it even worked, people were really unsure. But then, you know, when this kind of went to Congress and people really started questioning the legalities of subliminal advertisement, that's when things got kind of interesting, because I don't think there's really any real laws against it, is there, Jeff?
You know, it's funny you asked that, because contrary to what most people think, I mean, subliminal advertising is not really illegal. You know, I wondered in making my film who had authority over regulating such methods. So I started by contacting, of course, the FCC, who, of course, declined my request for an interview. But they did refer me to a 1974 report in which the commission stated that the use of subliminal techniques were inconsistent with the obligations of a licensee, and that such broadcasts are clearly intended to be deceptive. So that's great, but, you know, if you think about it, policy statements like that are not really the same as enforceable rules, and furthermore, the FCC has no authority at all over advertisers, just the broadcasters that carry their messages. So, you know, what's interesting, another thing I learned that most people probably are unaware of, is that in 1984, a congressional hearing took place to look into this issue. Apparently, I guess Orwell's book, 1984, some have said maybe predisposed Congress to looking into Orwellian techniques. And of course, subliminal is often thought of as an Orwellian technique. And there had been some complaints, I guess, which prompted Congress as well. So anyway, the verifiable who's who of the advertising world appeared on that congressional hearing, and they argued subliminal does not work. We don't use it, and we don't use it because it doesn't work. And I mean, we actually interviewed a lot of people, including University of Michigan professors named Dr. Howard Chevron, who has studied the effects of subliminal messaging for over 50 years. And he testified during that hearing. And he called for a moratorium on this technique until further study was completed. He was quoted as saying, although this may sound like science fiction, we may be on the threshold of invading the individual's perhaps last stronghold of personal privacy, his own inner thoughts. So during this interview, he claimed that Congress certainly got sufficient evidence that something along those lines was happening, but the conclusion in their report was that it was unlikely to be having the effects that were claimed, and therefore the law in Congress did not pass. The laws didn't pass anywhere in any state. According to another Hay House author that we interviewed, his name's Dr. Eldon Taylor, who was also interviewed in our film, he said that he believed this was a deliberate disinformation campaign designed to make the public feel comfortable. We don't use it, and if we did, it wouldn't work. So, I mean, that's really the truth about the laws that exist. There are none, people. So,
well, there would be some kind of double standard if it worked in advertising. What if an entity like government would use something like subliminal messaging? Then all of a sudden, then what?
Yeah, government mind control.
Great.
Like MK Ultra.
Yeah. Exactly. And let me tell you, politicians have definitely been accused of using subliminal messaging. We have a whole section in the film basically on subliminal politics. We actually looked at one example of this during the it was the 2000 presidential election. The Republican National Committee and our buddy George W. Bush, in his campaign, they ran a television commercial in which they inserted the subliminal message RATS when describing the Democratic opponents. So, while this may seem inconsequential, we also show how research studies have demonstrated that subliminal imagery can have an effect. There was actually, this is an interesting study. It was an Israeli study conducted by researchers at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And that study has shown that exposing people to a subliminal image of the national flag could sway their political attitudes. So basically what they did was they divided the participants into two groups, so at random, and they were asked about their attitudes toward kind of core issues in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And prior to answering these questions, half of them were exposed to a subliminal image of the Israeli flag. It was projected on a monitor, and half of them were not. And the results of that showed that, and this was really, really fast. They were using something called the tachistoscope, which is a super high-speed device that flashes images much faster than a frame of film, which is 1/29th or approximately 1/30th of a second. I mean, these speeds can go so fast that there's no way you're seeing anything. And basically, what they showed, the results of this, was that the former group tended to shift their political beliefs toward the center. In other words, a brief presentation of the Israeli flag, so brief that people didn't even notice it, was sufficient enough to make people adopt more moderate viewpoints.
That's just amazing to me that something so simple, would actually change their mind. And so quickly, just getting that brief image would actually change your stance on some type of issue. It almost sets the stage when they introduce this kind of messaging to people's unconscious that it's literally manipulating them on the fly. It's amazing.
Well, combine that with the psychotropic drugs everyone's on some kind of medicine. I wonder if that plays part into it as well.
What does it say about humanity? I mean, the fact that we don't really even understand what we are fully at this point, and individuals are still studying the brain and space, and we don't really understand everything. We like to pretend we know it all, and we like to make all these rules and laws and protections, but yet here we have government, clearly hearing about these things, subliminal advertisement, and no, that's not a big deal. Don't worry. We would never use that against you. That would never be something that we would use against our own people. We want you to be free, of course.
Oh, right, yeah, and we also explore other things like video news releases. I'm not sure how familiar people are with that either, but this is another example of political kind of propaganda. It's not really subliminal, but video news releases were used really, really aggressively during the Bush administration, and these are basically government and corporate propaganda PR pieces that are sent out to news agencies who are under budget, and looking for stories. And they end up running as actual stories during the news hour, but aren't news at all. It's total media manipulation.
Yeah, we've actually, I forgot what they're called, but we saw some stories about that where they're basically doing that with advertisement now. They're basically buying time on news networks and major news websites, and they're running these advertisements as real news, but when in reality, they're literally just advertisements for some type of product. But they're disguised as actual news.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that goes on all the time, and probably on a weekly basis on thousands of stations across the country. So, is it a conspiracy? I mean, I don't like to think that there's a group of secret people, sitting behind closed doors, smoking cigars and plotting world domination or all that stuff. But on the other hand, when you look at how the vast majority of the mass media, I mean, including virtually everything we see, read, and hear on radio comes from only a handful of global conglomerates, and they are Viacom, Time Warner, Murdoch's News Corporation, of course, Disney, Sony, and GE, and they all work in conjunction with one another. They all share boards of directors. I mean, in the same way that, the film kind of trying to expand on the traditional notion of what is subliminal, I think we kind of really have to expand on our notion of what is a conspiracy. And another example of this, I think, is, when you talk about conspiracy theorists, a lot of people are really quick to go, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, if you want to talk about conspiracy theorists, let's look at our own government and the military and what their job is. Okay, their job is to think of every horrible scenario that could ever possibly happen and then develop a plan around it. That's conspiracy theorists at the ultimate level, with billions and trillions of dollars to spend to figure it out.
Well, and they have departments literally labeled psychological operations. I mean, what does that tell you? Obviously, they're aware of the human psyche. They're aware of manipulating individuals. But don't be afraid. They're using that over on people overseas. They would never use it here, Jeff.
Oh, yeah. No, that would never happen. And we actually have another section in our film about psychological operations. In the 60s, we talked to a guy who was a retired colonel. He's written a couple books. One is called Winning the War. This is about the war on terror. And the other one was about non-lethal weapons and the different types of weaponry that exist today. But, when he was he was trained in psychological operations in Vietnam, and back then what they did was they just threw leaflets, like hundreds of thousands of leaflets out of the back of a plane, and they would fall down to, our enemy or whoever it was that we were trying to target, and they would say things like, we're going to bomb you tonight, just to scare them and get them all, psychologically enraged or worried or fear. And that's changed dramatically today. I mean, now we have all kinds of new technology. We have things like Commando Solo, for example, which is a C-130 Hercules airplane that's basically a flying television radio station. And it broadcasts direct messages to the enemy that we want them to hear. That's just one example. There's all kinds of other technology out there that's being used, including electromagnetic weapons, things like Silent Guardian and COINTELPRO. I mean, there's a lot of different things that have gone on. The Neurophone, Medusa. I mean, you can research this stuff and find all kinds of examples of psychological operations that the government, has been developing over the years. And it's pretty staggering when you think about it.
Well, they got to test them on someone. Who are they testing them on? Are we just lab rats? Is that what it comes down to when it comes to all this?
I think in a lot of ways we are. I mean, that actually brings up an interesting point. That's kind of where my next documentary is going. I've been working on a project that involves, this electromagnetic weaponry and harassment and surveillance and mass stalking, voice to skull technology, and all of this stuff is kind of a continuation of MK Ultra from the 50s and 60s, as well as COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program that they did in the 60s as well. So
reminds me of the voice of God weaponry. Have you ever heard of the voice of God weaponry, where they actually beam voices straight into your head using some form of microwave?
Oh yeah, the microwave auditory effect, and there is a lot of proof that kind of technology does exist. They've been experimenting with it for many years, and I think that Snowden, in his revelations, he revealed a lot about what the government was doing. But I think when you look at it, I mean, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. What he revealed to us. There's so many more millions more classified documents that he didn't reveal. And I think that this is probably some of the stuff that, is what they're working on for sure.
And it makes a lot of sense with all the propaganda that we see on TV. People are almost lulled into like a sleep state. And it's interesting that all this stuff kind of targets your subconscious, your unconscious. It's interesting that, we're bombarded by all this stuff that kind of lulls people into this lower brainwave cycle where they can actually pick up on all of this stuff that's coming out through whatever kind of frequencies. It makes it almost easier. If they were operating on a higher level, it would seem that it'd be more difficult for them to, just hit everybody with all this kind of messaging.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the television has kind of a hypnotic effect in itself. The flash rate, the flicker rate, kind of puts your brain into alpha and beta mode, and it really lulls you into kind of a trance-like state. And so then the messages are really easy for them to come in because you're not filtering them consciously. You're kind of just open. The floodgates are open, and they come flowing in. And another interesting thing is that there really are just 4 fundamental drives in human psychology. A lot of people call them the 4 Fs. I don't know if you probably learned about this when you guys took a psychology class, but they're fight, flight, food, and fornication. And our society, largely driven in part by advertisers motivating us to consume, we've ended up with a 5th drive now, which is more. We systematically, the way that works is that they systematically desensitize our threshold of arousal by increasing the amount of stimuli that's delivered, that's either sexual or violent or, even gross in nature. And so the more begins with, I want more stimulation. And you see that in kids all the time these days. But then it continues to everything else, whether it's, more food, more alcohol and drugs, more cars, more money, more power, more women. It's more.
Yeah, it seems like we live in an excessive culture where literally nothing is enough for anyone. You could have all the money, all the food, all the power, and you still literally will not be happy with that. Now, why would that be? You have all these things that you would need to have a life and a successful life, but yet people always need more. It seems like they need it.
Oh, it becomes and it becomes an obsession. It's like a drug. And that's what television is in a lot of ways. It's a drug. And then while you're taking that drug, they can tell you about all the new pharmaceuticals that are coming out that will also help you with what other problem you might have. It's just a never-ending cycle, it seems like. And until people really start waking up and detaching themselves from media, or at least limiting it. If you think about it, we are like grossly obese as a society with media, the amount of media that we consume. And so we really need to put ourselves on a media diet, which is, taper down, healthier trends, maybe get out once in a while, join a community group, volunteer at an organization, go to church, help some kids. I don't know. But we need to unplug from the television and do something that's more productive as a society, because that's not getting us anywhere.
I couldn't agree more. And maybe just understand what's going on. Understand who these corporations are. Understand that there are these type of programs, that they are spending this kind of money advertising to you. Understand where these products come from. And maybe it'll kind of change your mind on some of these things. Not for everybody, because I'm sure some people are going to be stuck in that sleep state. But for the people that are waking up, so to speak, you know, those are the people that can kind of change this and like you said, make the diet kind of real, because if people aren't buying these products, then they're going to be forced to find a new way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of reminds me of the Matrix in a way. I mean, like you said, not everyone's going to want to wake up and come out of their dreamlike trance, but if enough people do, I think it'll cause a movement, and that's kind of what we need. And you know, like you said, the first place to start is realizing and having an understanding of what's going on, and acknowledging it. I mean, there's so many people that their ego just tells them, "Oh no, I'm not affected by advertising," and of course, subliminal advertising is just a joke. I can't tell you how many comments I saw from a lot of young people on that video that I did recently. That's on YouTube and on Facebook. And their comments were just like, everyone was laughing at it like it was a big joke. Well, people, you know, this is not a joke. We need to wake up. And the first step is acknowledging that there's a problem. And, you know, I'll be the first to admit it. I have as much of an addiction on media as, I mean, I sit down in front of the television and it just sucks me right in. I don't care what's on. It could be, you know, The Bachelor. And, you know, next thing I know, I'm like, oh, wow, is she gonna go with him or not? So, I mean, anyone can fall subject to this. We're not stupid or idiots for being able to fall into it. They've just gotten really good at sucking us in and keeping us there.
And, you know, it's not just subliminals. I think there's a lot of aspects of this, whether it's buzzwords or other things like that. We see examples just recently with, like, the Confederate flag, the rainbow flag, how these things play on people's emotional aspects of their life. They get really wrapped up in their emotions.
Oh, they really do. Yeah. And I mean, you know, people have strong attachments to symbols. Symbolism is, you know, has been going on for a long time. I mean, look at examples of Illuminati on the dollar, for example. We were talking about that during the break. There's examples of symbolism all over the place that is used to convey meaning and power and dominance. And people, you know, really take a lot of that very, very personally. And for good reason. But I think at the same time, we need to kind of settle ourselves down and have a tolerance to other viewpoints and other people and other beliefs. And maybe that's a step in the right direction. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, it's really difficult without letting people know what the problem is. How can people really make a change if they don't understand that they're under this kind of psychological warfare at all times? How can they make any changes in their life if they're just going about it every day without ever even recognizing that they're part of the problem? You know, so at least there's people out there making a difference, trying to at least ring the bell, let people know, hey man, this is going on. If you want to look into it, it might benefit you. I think that's really part of the plan, what's going on here. And like you said, I think there are people waking up. I mean, that's why we have things like alternative media, where individuals are just kind of at their own houses, starting their own operations, and kind of growing in popularity, because people would rather listen to some guy like me or Kristan talk about the news than hear it from a corporation like Fox News at this point, because they just can't trust them.
Yeah, and not only can you not trust them, but I mean, how's it really benefiting you to know about, you know, what kind of homicide took place down, you know, in some neighborhood that you don't even live in, and you know, I mean, it seems like that really all they're trying to do is spread fear and anxiety and neurosis to people. The mainstream news. I mean, and then when you look at CNN, I mean, all it is a bunch of talking heads. It's not even. It's kind of covering older events. It's not even news. It's kind of like infotainment, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's good to see that there's a lot of, that's the great thing about the internet. And if there's a bright side to this whole thing, I think that the fact that there are so many independent avenues that we can pursue for not just our media, but for our entertainment as well. I think that's kind of where maybe we should be going and what we can look to as the future. And that maybe is the positive side of what we can take away from all of this.
Yeah, and I think that's really growing. Now, everything can be manipulated. I mean, I'm sure News Corp and all these corporations are looking at the internet and saying, how can we fake viral videos? They're already doing it. How can we appear as a legitimate person even though we have major funding behind these individuals? Right. I mean, I'm sure that kind of stuff is going on now. But the idea is, I think the individuals that are aware will kind of be able to decipher this kind of behavior. I think they'll be able to see, you know, there's something off about this. Where is this guy getting all this funding? Where are these individuals, you know, getting all this information? It's definitely leading us to believe that the internet is the new way, but this old way of propaganda and advertisement, it's going to bleed over. It's already happening right now. I know it.
And why am I eating so much popcorn all
Yes, why are we eating so much popcorn? I'm definitely going to eat some popcorn right after the show. We put hidden
I love popcorn.
Hidden popcorn messages all in the flyer. Organic no, not popcorn. Really. Jeff, you mentioned you're working on a new project that has to do with some weaponry that may be targeting individuals, you briefly said?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of in the early phases, but, you know, it's interesting because there was another filmmaker that sent me some, I don't know, it was kind of archival interview footage that he shot, and he actually kind of turned up missing while making this, and he sent it to me, and I've been kind of trying to piece it together and make sense of it all and put it together to show people, and that's kind of what it entails, really. But it's really based around these advanced weapons that we're talking about, electromagnetic weaponry, and things like the voice to skull, silent sound that we were talking about, and harassment, government harassment, but done on a kind of a covert level.
Gang stalking type things.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look online, there's a lot of people that claim to, you know, be targeted individuals of this stuff, and to what extent is that really real, or are they just kind of, have they just lost it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, some of them seem kind of nutty.
They actually buy like tinfoil hats, and it reduces what happens. Some of them buy like lead blankets and there's a paint, and they actually block the sounds out, so you can actually, I guess, either they psychologically believe it's working or it's really working. So I don't know.
It's definitely worth looking into. Jeff, we only have like 30 seconds left with you. So where can people find out more information about you and support what you're doing?
Well, I mean, they can go to the film site for starters. It's programmingthenation.com. You know, you can watch the film online there. You can go to Amazon, buy it on Amazon.com, the DVD. Or there's a ton of clips on YouTube, and we have a Facebook page as well. So just Google Programming the Nation, and you'll come up with all kinds of great free, information, clips, interviews like the one I'm doing with you today, and just a plethora of information that people can kind of digest.
Thanks a lot, Jeff Warrick, Programming the Nation. Thanks, we're going to have to get you back on.
All right.
Have a good one, man.
Look forward to it. You too.
Make sure you guys check out ProgrammingTheNation.com, Truth Frequency Radio, RundownLive.com. Phoenix Rising's coming up next. We're talking Bohemian Grove tomorrow with Greg Fernandez.
Send us an email, showtips@therundownlive.com.